Hello, Cardinals, and welcome to our next installment of Oryx and Crake. 5. Toast. Snowman in his tattered sheet sits hunched at the edge of the trees where grass and vetch and sea grapes merge into sand. Now that it's cooler, he feels less dejected. Also, he's hungry. There's something to be said for hunger. At least it lets you know you're still alive. A breeze riffles the leaves overhead. Insects rasp and trill. Red light from the setting sun hits the tower blocks in the water, illuminating an unbroken pane here and there, as if a scattering of lamps had been turned on. Several of the buildings once held roof gardens, and now they're top-heavy with overgrown shrubbery. Hundreds of birds are streaming across the sky towards them, roostward bound. Ibis, herons. The black ones are cormorants, he knows that for sure. They settle down into the darkening foliage, croaking and squabbling. If he ever needs guano, he'll know where to find it. Across the clearing to the south comes a rabbit, hopping, listening, pausing to nibble at the grass with its gigantic teeth. It glows in the dusk, a greenish glow filched from the iridocytes of a deep-sea jellyfish in some long-ago experiment. In the half-light, the rabbit looks soft and almost translucent, like a piece of Turkish delight, as if you could suck off its fur like sugar. Even in Snowman's boyhood, there were luminous green rabbits, though they weren't this big and they hadn't yet slipped their cages and bred with the wild population and become a nuisance. This one has no fear of him, though it fills him with carnivorous desires. He longs to whack it with a rock, tear it apart with his bare hands, and then cram it into his mouth, fur and all. But rabbits belong to the children of Oryx and are sacred to Oryx herself, and it would be a bad idea to offend the women. It's his own fault. He must have been stupefied with drink when he was laying down the laws. He should have made rabbits edible by himself at any rate, but he can't change that now. He can almost hear Oryx laughing at him with indulgent, faintly malicious delight. The children of Oryx, the children of Crake. He'd had to think of something. Get your story straight, keep it simple, don't falter. This used to be the expert advice given by lawyers to criminals on the dock. Crake made the bones of the children of Crake out of the coral on the beach, and then he made their flesh out of a mango. But the children of Oryx hatched out of an egg, a giant egg laid by Oryx herself. Actually, she had laid 2 eggs, one full of animals and birds and fish, and the other one full of words. But the egg full of words hatched first, and the children of Crake had already been created by then, and they'd eaten up all the words because they were hungry, and so there were no words left over when the second egg hatched out, and that's why animals can't talk. Internal consistency is best. Snowman learned this earlier in his life, when lying had posed more of a challenge for him. Now, even when he's caught in a mire contradiction, he can make it stick because these people trust him. He's the only one left who'd known Crake face to face, so he can lay claim to the inside track. Above his head flies the invisible banner of Crakedom, of Crakiness, of Crakehood, hallowing all he does. The first star appears. Starlight, star bright, he says. Some grade school teacher, Big Bum Sally. Now close your eyes right up tight, tighter, really, really tight. There, see the wishing star? Now we all wish for the thing we want very, very most of all in the whole wide world. But shh, don't tell anyone or the wish won't come true. Snowman screws his eyes shut, pushes his fists into them, and clenches his entire face. There's the wishing star, all right. It's blue. I wish I may, I wish I might, he says. Have the wish I wish tonight. Fat chance. Oh, Snowman, why are you talking to no one? Says a voice. Snowman opens his eyes. 3 of the older children are standing just out of reach, regarding him with interest. They must have crept up on him in the dusk. I'm talking to Crake, he says. But you talk to Crake through your shiny thing. Is it broken? Snowman lifts his arm, holds out his watch. This is for listening to Crake. Talking to him is different. Why are you talking to him about stars? What are you telling to Crake, oh Snowman? What indeed, thinks Snowman. When dealing with indigenous peoples, says the book in his head, a more modern book this time, late 20th century, the voice of confident females, you must attempt to respect their traditions and confine your explanations to simple concepts that can be understood within the contents of their belief systems. Some earnest aid worker in a khaki jungle outfit with netting under the arms and 100 pockets, condescending, self-righteous cow, thinks she's got all the answers. He'd known girls like that in college. If she were here, she'd need a whole new take on indigenous. I was telling him, says Snowman, that you ask too many questions. He holds his watch up to his ear, and he's telling me that if you don't stop doing that, you'll be toast. Please, oh Snowman, what is toast? Another error, Snowman thinks. He should avoid arcane metaphors. Toast, he says, is something very, very bad. It's so bad I can't even describe it. Now it's your bedtime. Go away. What is toast? Says Snowman to himself once they've run off. Toast is when you take a piece of bread. What's bread? Bread is when you take some flour. What's flour? We'll skip that part. It's too complicated. Bread is something you can eat, made from a ground-up plant and shaped like a stone. You cook it. Please, why do you cook it? Why don't you just eat the plant? Never mind that part. Pay attention. You cook it, and then you cut it into slices, and you put a slice in the toaster, which is a metal box that heats up with electricity. What's electricity? Don't worry about that. While the slice is in the toaster, you get out the butter. Butter is a yellow grease made from the mammary glands of, skip the butter. So the toaster turns the slice of bread black on both sides with smoke coming out of it, and then this toaster shoots the slice up into the air and it falls on the floor. Forget it, says Snowman. Let's try again. Toast was a pointless invention from the Dark Ages. Toast was an implement of torture that caused all those subjugated to it to regurgitate in verbal form the sins and crimes of their past lives. Toast was a ritual item devoured by fetishists in the belief that it would enhance their kinetic and sexual powers. Toast cannot be explained by any rational means. Toast is me. I am toast. Fish. The sky darkens from ultramarine to indigo. God bless the namers of oil paints and high-class women's underwear, Snowman thinks. Rose petal pink, crimson lake, sheer mist, burnt umber, ripe plum, indigo, ultramarine. They're fantasies in themselves, such words and phrases. It's comforting to remember that Homo sapiens sapiens was once so ingenious with language, and not only with language, ingenious in every direction at once. Monkey brains had been Crake's opinion. Monkey paws, monkey curiosity, the desire to take apart, turn inside out, smell, fondle, measure, improve, trash, discard, all hooked up to monkey brains, an advanced model of monkey brains, but monkey brains all the same. Crake had no very high opinion of human ingenuity, despite the large amount of it that he himself possessed. There's a murmuring of voices from the direction of the village, or from what would be a village if it had any houses. Right on schedule, here come the men carrying their torches, and behind them the women. Every time the women appear, Snowman is astonished all over again. Their every known color from the deepest black to the whitest white, and their various heights. Each one of them is admirably proportioned, each as sound of tooth and smooth of skin, no ripples of fat around their waists, no bulges, no dimpled orange-skinned cellulite on their thighs, no body hair, no bushiness. They looked like retouched fashion photos or ads for a high-priced workout program. Maybe this is the reason that these women arouse in Snowman not even the faintest stirring of lust. It was the thumbprints of human imperfection that used to move him, the flaws in the design, the lopsided smile, the wart next to the navel, the mole, the bruise. These were the places he'd single out, putting his mouth on them. Was it consolation he'd had in mind, kissing the wound to make it better? There was always an element of melancholy involved in sex. After his indiscriminate adolescence, he'd preferred sad women, delicate and breakable, women who'd been messed up and who needed him. He liked to comfort them, stroke them gently at first and reassure them, make them happier, if only for a moment. Hisself, too, of course, that was the payoff. A grateful woman would go the extra mile. But these new women were neither lopsided nor sad. They're placid, like animated statues. They leave him chilled. The women are carrying his weekly fish, grilled the way he's taught them and wrapped in leaves. He can smell it, and he's starting to drool. They bring the fish forward and put it on the ground in front of him. It will be a shorefish, a species too paltry and tasteless to have been coveted and sold and exterminated, or else a bottom feeder pimply with toxins, but Snowman couldn't care less. He'll eat anything. "Here is your fish, O Snowman," says one of the men, the one called Abraham. Abraham, as in Lincoln. It had amused Crake to name his Crakers after eminent historical figures. It had all seemed innocent enough at the time. "This is the one fish chosen for you tonight," says the woman holding it, the Empress Josephine, or else Madame Courier, Sojourner Truth. She's in the shade, so he can't tell which. "This is the fish Oryx gives you." "Oh, good," thanks Snowman. "Catch of the day." Every week, according to the phases of the moon, dark, first quarter, full, second quarter, the women stand in tidal pools and call the unlucky fish by name. Only fish, nothing more specific. Then they point it out, and the men kill it with rocks and sticks. That way the unpleasantness is shared among them, and no single person is guilty of shedding the fish's blood. If things had gone as Crake wanted, there would be no more such killing, no more human predation, but he'd reckoned without Snowman and his beastly appetites. Snowman can't live on clover. The people would never eat a fish themselves, but they have to bring him one a week because he's told them that Crake has decreed it. They've accepted Snowman's monstrousness, and they've known from the beginning he was a separate order of beings, so they weren't surprised by this. "Idiot," he thinks, "I should have made it 3 a day." He unwraps the warm fish from its leaves, trying to keep his hands from trembling. He shouldn't get too carried away, but he always does. The people keep their distance and avert their eyes while he crams handful of fishiness into his mouth and sucks out the eyes and cheeks, groaning with pleasure. Perhaps it's like hearing a lion gorge itself at the zoo back when there were zoos, back when there were lions. A rending and a crunching, a horrible gobbling and gulping. And, like those long-ago zoo visitors, the Crakers can't help but peeking. The spectacle of depravity is of interest even to them, it seems, purified by chlorophyll though they are. When Snowman is finished, he licks his fingers and wipes them on his sheet and places the bones back in their leaf, ready to be returned to the sea. He has told them Oryx wants that. She needs the bones of her children so she can make other children out of them. They've accepted this without question, like everything he says about Oryx. In reality, it's one of his smarter ploys. No sense leaving the scraps around on land to attract rakunks and wolvogs and pagoons and other scavengers. The people move closer, men and women both, gathering around, their green eyes luminescent in the semi-darkness, just like the rabbit. Same jellyfish gene. Sitting all together like this, they smell like a crate full of citrus fruit. An added feature on the part of Crake, who thought those chemicals would ward off mosquitoes. Maybe he was right, because all the mosquitoes for miles would appear to be biting Snowman. He resists the urge to swat. His fresh blood only excites them. He shifts to the left, so he's more in the smoke of the torches. "Snowman, tell us, please, about the deeds of Crake." A story is what they want, in exchange for every slaughtered fish. Well, I owe them, Snowman thinks. God of bullshit, fail me not. "What part would you like to hear tonight?" he says. "In the beginning," prompts a voice. They're fond of repetition. They learn things by heart. "In the beginning, there was chaos," he says. "Show us chaos, please, O Snowman. Show us a picture of chaos." They'd struggled with pictures at first. Flowers on beach trash lotion bottles, fruits on juice cans. Is this real? No, it's not real. What is this not real? Not real can tell us about real, and so forth. But now they appear to have grasped the concept. Yes, a picture of chaos, they urge. Snowman has known this request would be made. All the stories begin with chaos, and so he's ready for it. From behind his concrete slab cache, he brings out one of his finds, an orange plastic pail, faded to pink but otherwise undamaged. He tries not to imagine what has happened to the child who must have once owned it. Bring some water, he says, holding out the pail. There's a scramble around the ring of torches, hands reach out, feet scamper off into the darkness. In the chaos, everything was mixed together, he says. There were too many people, and so the people were all mixed up with the dirt. The pail comes back, sloshing, and is set down in the circle of light. He adds a handful of earth and stirs it with a stick. There, he says, chaos, you can't drink it. No, a chorus. You can't eat it. No, you can't eat it. Laughter. You can't swim in it. You can't stand on it. No, they love this bit. The people in the chaos were full of chaos themselves, and the chaos made them do bad things. They were killing other people all the time, and they were eating up all the children of Oryx against the wishes of Oryx and Crake. Every day they were eating them up, and they were killing them and killing them and eating them and eating them. They ate them even when they weren't hungry. Gasping here, widened eyes. It's always a dramatic moment. Such wickedness. And he continues. And Oryx had only one desire. She wanted the people to be happy and to be at peace and to stop eating up her children. But the people couldn't be happy because of the chaos. And then Oryx said to Crake, let us get rid of the chaos. And so Crake took the chaos and he poured it away. Snowman demonstrates, sloshing the water off to the side, and then turns the pail upside down. There, empty. And this is how Crake did the great rearrangement and made the great emptiness. He cleared away the dirt, and he cleared room for his children, for the children of Crake. Right, and for the children of Oryx as well. Right, says Snowman. Is there no end to his shameless inventions? He feels like crying. Crake made the great emptiness, says the men. For us, say the women. It's become a liturgy. Oh, good, kind Crake. Their adulation of Crake enrages Snowman, though this adulation had been his own doing. The Crake that they're praising is his fabrication, a fabrication not unmixed with spite. Crake was against the notion of God or any gods of any kind, and would surely be disgusted by the spectacle of his own gradual deification. If he were here, but he's not here, and it's galling for Snowman to listen to all this misplaced sucking up. Why don't they glorify Snowman instead? Good, kind Snowman, who deserves glorification more, much more, because who got them out? Who got them here? Who's been watching over them all this time? Well, sort of watching. It sure as hell wasn't Crake. Why can't Snowman revise the mythology? Thank me, not him. Lick my ego instead. But for now his bitterness must be swallowed. Yes, he says, good, kind Crake. He twists his mouth into what he hopes is a gracious and benevolent smile. At first he'd improvised, but now they're demanding dogma. He would deviate from orthodoxy at his peril. He might not lose his life. These people aren't violent or given to bloodthirsty acts of retribution, or not so far. But he'd lose his audience. They'd turn their backs on him. They'd wander away. He's Crake's prophet now, whether he likes it or not, and the prophet of Oryx as well. That or nothing. And he couldn't stand to be nothing. To know himself to be nothing, he needs to be listened to. He needs to be heard. He needs at least the illusion of being understood. Oh, Snowman, tell us about when Crake was born, says one of the women. This is a new request. He isn't ready for it, though he should have expected it. Children are of the great interest to these women. Careful, he tells himself. Once he provides a mother and a birth scene and an infant Crake for them, they'll want the details. They'll want to know when Crake cut his first tooth and spoke his first word and ate his first root and other such banalities. Crake was never born, said Snowman. He came down out of the sky like thunder. Now go away, please. I'm tired. He'll add this to the fable later. Maybe he'll endow Crake with horns and wings of fire and allow him a tail for good measure. Bottle. After the children of Crake have filed away, taking their torches with them, Snowman clambers up his tree and tries to sleep. All around him are noises, the slurping of the waves, insects chirping and whirring, bird whistles, amphibious croaks, the rustling of leaves. His ears deceive him. He thinks he can hear a jazz horn, and under that a rhythmic drumming as if from a muffled nightclub. From somewhere farther along the shore comes a booming, bellowing sound. Now what? He can't think of any animal that makes such a noise. Perhaps it's a crocodile escaped from a defunct Cuban handbag farm and working its way north along the shore. That would be bad news for the kids in swimming. He listens again, but the sound doesn't recur. There's a distant, peaceful murmur from the village, human voices, if you can call them human, as long as they don't start singing. Their singing is unlike anything he ever heard in his vanished life. It's beyond the human level, or below it, as if crystals are singing, but not that either. More like ferns unscrolling, something old, carboniferous, but at the same time newborn, fragrant, verdant. It reduces him, forces too many unwanted emotions upon him. He feels excluded, as if from a party to which he will never be invited. All he'd have to do is step forward into the firelight, and there'd be a ring of suddenly blank faces turned toward him. Silence would fall, as in tragic plays of long ago, when the doomed protagonist made an entrance, enveloped in his cloak of contagious bad news. On some non-conscious level, Snowman must serve as a reminder of these people, and not a pleasant one. He's what they may have been once. I'm your past, he might intone. I'm your ancestor, come from the land of the dead, and now I'm lost and I can't get back. I'm stranded here, I'm all alone, let me in. Oh, Snowman, how may we be of help to you? The mild smiles, the polite surprise, the puzzled goodwill. Forget it, he would say. There's no way they can help him. Not really. There's a chilly breeze blowing, the sheet is damp and he shivers. If only this place had a thermostat, maybe he could figure out some way of building a little fire up here in his tree. Go to sleep, he orders himself, with no result. After a long session of tossing, turning, and scratching, he climbs back down to seek out the scotch bottle in his cache. There's enough starlight so that he can get his bearings more or less. He's made this trip many times in the past, and for the first month and a half, after he was fairly sure it was safe to relax his vigilance, he got pissed out of his mind every night. And that was not a wise or mature thing for him to have done, granted, but of what use are wisdom and maturity to him now? So every night had been a party night, and party of one. Or every night he'd had the makings. Whenever he'd been able to locate another stash of alcohol in the abandoned plebland buildings within reach. He'd scoured the nearby bars first, and then the restaurants, and then the houses and trailers. He'd done cough medicine, shaving lotion, rubbing alcohol. Out behind the tree, he's accumulated an impressive dump of empty bottles. Once in a while, he'd come across a stash of weed, and he'd done that too, though often enough it was moldy. Still, he might manage to get a buzz out of it, or he might find some pills. No coke or crack or heroin, that would have been used up early, stuffed into veins and noses in one last burst of carpe diem, anything for a vacation from reality under the circumstances. There'd been empty Bliss Plus containers everywhere, all you'd need for a non-stop orgy. The revelers hadn't managed to get through all the booze, though often enough on his hunting and gathering trips he discovered that others had been there before him, and there was nothing left but broken glass. There must have been riotous behavior of all sorts imaginable, until finally there had been no one left to keep it up. At ground level, it's dark as an armpit. A flashlight would come in handy, one of the wind-up kind. He should keep an eye out. He gropes and stumbles in the right direction, scanning the ground for a glimmer of the vicious white land crabs that come up out of their burrows and scuttle around after dark. Those things can give you quite a nip. And after a short detour into a clump of bushes, he locates his cement hidey hole by stubbing his toe on it. He refrains from swearing, no way of telling what else might be prowling around in the night. He slides open the cache, fumbles blindly within it, and retrieves the third of scotch. He's been saving it up, resisting the urge to binge, keeping it as sort of a charm. As long as he knows it's still there, it's been easier to get through time. This might be the last of it. He's certain he's explored every likely site within a day's out and back radius of his tree, but he's feeling reckless. Why hoard the stuff? Why wait? What's his life worth anyways, and who cares? Out, out, brief candle. He served his evolutionary purpose as fucking Crake knew he would. He saved the children. Fucking Crake! He can't help yelling. Clutching the bottle with one hand, feeling his way with the other, he reaches his tree again. He needs both hands for climbing, so he knots the bottle securely into his sheet. Once up, he sits on his platform, gulping down the scotch and howling at the stars, aroo, aroo, until he's startled by a chorus of replies from right near the tree. Is that the gleam of eyes? He can hear panting. Hello, my furry pals, he calls down. Who wants to be man's best friend? In answer, there's a supplicating whine. That's the worst thing about the Wolvogs. They still look like dogs, still behave like dogs, pricking up their ears, making playful puppy leaps and bounces, wagging their tails. They'll sucker you in and then go for you. It hasn't taken much to reverse 50,000 years of man-canid interaction. As for the real dogs, they never stood a chance. The Wolvogs have simply killed and eaten all those who'd showed signs of vestigial domesticated status. He's seen a Wolvog advance to a yapping Pekingese in a friendly manner, sniff its bum, and then lunge for its throat, shake it like a mop, and canter off with the limp body. For a while, there were still a few woebegone house pets scrounging around, skinny and limping, their fur matted and dull, begging with bewildered eyes to be taken in by some human, any human. The children of Crake hadn't fit their bill. They must have smelled weird to a dog, sort of like walking fruit, especially at dusk when the citrus oil insect repellent kicked in. And in any case, they'd showed no interest in puppy dogs as a concept, so the strays had concentrated on Snowman. He'd almost given in a couple of times. He'd found it hard to resist their ingratiating wriggles, their pitiful whining, but he couldn't afford to feed them. Anyway, they were useless to him. It's sink or swim, he'd told them. Sorry, old buddy. He'd driven them away with stones, feeling like a complete shit, and there haven't been any more lately. What a fool he'd been. He'd let them go to waste. He should have eaten them, or taken one in, trained it to catch rabbits, or defend him, or something. Wolvogs can't climb trees, which is one good thing. If they get numerous enough and too persistent, he'll have to start swinging from vine to vine like Tarzan. That's a funny idea, so he laughs. All you want is my body, he yells at them. And then he drains the bottle and throws it down. There's a yelp, a scuttling. They still respect missiles. But how long can that last? They're smart. Very soon they'll sense his vulnerability and start hunting him. Once they begin, he'll never be able to go anywhere, or anywhere without trees. All they'll have to do is get him out in the open and circle him, close in for the kill. There's only so much you can do with stones and pointed sticks. He really needs to find another spray gun. After the Wolvogs have gone, he lies on his back on the platform, gazing up at the stars through the gently moving leaves. They seem close, the stars, but they're far away. Their light is millions, billions of years out of date. Messages with no sender. Time passes. He wants to sing a song, but can't think of one. Old music rises up in him and fades, and all he can hear is the percussion. Maybe he could whittle a flute out of some branch or stem or something. If only he could find a knife. Starlight, star bright, he says. What comes next? It's gone right out of his head. No moon. Tonight is the dark of the moon, although the moon is there nevertheless, and must be rising now, a huge invisible ball of stone, a giant lump of gravity, dead but powerful, drawing the sea toward itself, drawing all fluids. The human body is 90% water, says the book in his head. And this time it's a man's voice, an encyclopedia voice, no one he knows or knew. The other 2% is made up of minerals, most importantly the iron in the blood and the calcium of which the skeletal frame and the teeth are comprised. Who gives a rat's ass, says Snowman. He doesn't care about the iron in his blood or the calcium in his skeletal frame. He's tired of being himself. He wants to be someone else, turn over all of his cells, get a chromosome transplant, trade in his head for some other head, one with better things in it. Fingers moving over him, for instance, little fingers with oval nails, painted bright plum, or crimson lake, or rose petal pink. I wish I may, I wish I might have this wish I wish tonight. Fingers, a mouth, a dull, heavy ache begins at the base of his spine. Oryx, he says, I know you're there. He repeats the name. It's not even her real name, which he'd never known anyway. It's only a word. It's a mantra. Sometimes he can conjure her up. At first she's pale and shadowy, but if he can say her name over and over, then maybe she'll glide into his body and be present with him in the flesh, and his hand on himself will become her hand. But she's always been evasive. You can never pin her down. Tonight she fails to materialize, and he's left alone, whimpering ridiculously, jerking off all by himself in the dark.